What's happening, guys? Welcome back to Tactical Foul. We are on the precipice of the Premier League season. We're all gearing up. I hope you guys are all excited as I am. And with it being the beginning of a new season, you know what that means. I'm going to give you some unqualified predictions, and that are probably going to go very, very wrong for me. So, honestly, if I have your team doing poorly, uh, you just know that it's probably gonna be the opposite. So that's good news for you guys. Bad news for anybody that I predict highly. So with that said, let's get stuck in. And I think the best place to start is the worst, and it's the three teams that I have going down. And in the 20th spot overall, I think they were the worst team last. They were the second worst team last year. Norwich was clearly the worst team last year. Second worst team last year, and honestly, if it wasn't for one player, essentially, they would have been down. And that's Aston Villa. I don't like. I like a few of their players. I don't love their management. I don't love hardly any of their players, minus Bar Grealish, who I don't think will be there by the end of the year. McGinn's solid, and Mings is a Premier League center back. I'll say that. Other than that, I think it's a poorly run club, poorly run team, I should say. Honestly, poorly run club. When you think about, they should be a bigger club than they are. They should be performing at a higher level than what they do. And you see what they are. I think that they will be in the championship next season. Now, this is the one and only team. So I'm giving you a little spoiler. One and only team that is coming up that I have going back down. It was tough. It was tight. I almost had another one, but West Brom. I just think that they just don't have a squad built to really do a whole lot in the league. I think that they have the least attacking threat of either of the two clubs that are coming up. And when I look around them, obviously they were one of the last teams they were the last team to get in. So maybe this is a scapegoat, but I don't see West Brom being able to hold a place over some of these other teams, especially over a full season. So West Brom is my next club. The last club that I have going down, in it, I don't. They're just kind of a meh club, anyways. So I think we will almost forget that they were there at times. I do like the signing of Adam Lallana, and obviously, with that said, that's Brighton that I'm talking about, Brighton Hove Albion. I think that they just don't have enough goal threats to stay up. I think you have to score enough goals to stay up, especially when you're at the bottom. Like, look, when you're at the bottom, you're going to give up goals. It's just kind of how that goes usually. And to be fair, to me, not Brighton, they kind of give up goals as well. They have some okay center backs, right? But I just don't see them being able to score enough. Adam Lallana will definitely add to their attack. He will. However, I think that he will add to the creativity and chance creation, but I still don't see someone there that is going to put away enough chances and score enough goals to keep them up this season. So our three relegation teams are Aston Villa, West Brom, and Brighton Hove Albion. So let's move on to the obviously 11 through 17. I'm going to be honest with you. Kind of a little bit just fodder, right? They're kind of interchangeable, I think, a little bit. But the two closest teams that I had to going down that I was contemplating, if it wasn't for some of their signings this summer and just what I see around them, they would have been down. The first one is New Boys, Fulham, back in the Premier League. Obviously, the last time they were here, we saw how well that went. Not well. at all. I do like Mitrovic. I think he's a quality striker. I think he will get them some goals. I believe they have, can't say his first name, Pereira, who they had on loan last year, the winger, and then they made that a permanent deal. I believe he came from Sporting. He got a lot of assists, added a lot to that team, um, and I like what they did. They brought in Areola, the French goalkeeper, uh, quality goalkeeper that's been around. Was a starter at PSG at a young age. Backup, I believe, at Real Madrid. Different, high pedigree guy. I like that move. So just barely, and maybe a little harsh on Brighton, but I think um, just the I think just having Mitrovic and having some more attacking threats really is the only reason that they just get out of that relegation battle. The next team, and honestly, I might have some bias just because their manager I have a disdain for. But honestly, they were very poor last year. Um, and I think they just underperform a lot, and that's West Ham. I think they have enough to be up, which is why I have them staying up. But I just see them performing poorly. I don't trust David Moyes. That's obviously some PTSD on my part. I know that he's done a good job elsewhere. Obviously he kept them up last year after they were so bad, and then obviously the job he did with Everton is commendable. Um, I just I think that I think Antonio's decent. Declan's a good young player. Lanzini's good. If they don't get Mark Noble out of that midfield, maybe they will get relegated. But they got some decent players. Diop, you know, some different players there that I think can contribute. But for whatever reason, that team just seems to always struggle, and I think they will continue to struggle. So West Ham, 16th place. On to the next one. A more exciting team that I do like, and I think they're always fun to watch. But you look, they kind of underperform, kind of like West Ham. This is contingent, I think, mainly, and this is me just believing that Wilfred Zaha is going to leave Crystal Palace. So Crystal Palace being the next at the 15th spot, I think they lose Wilfred Zaha. His production is not what you would want from a winger, a top class winger. Um, but his ability to beat defenders, to spread the field, and just kind of create chances for them, and also be a conduit on the counterattack, is very good. And then you add that in addition to Ayew, I think you have two solid attackers there. Benteke should be way better. But he doesn't score goals anymore, so that's why they are so low. I think that they added in Eze, who's a young attacking midfielder, so hopefully maybe that's another person that can come in and help that attack. I know that they made some decent signings, which is why even on the back of how bad they were last year to finish the season, I have them staying up and in 15th place. So semi-comfortable there. The next team I have, honestly, a big reason, I think they've made some good signings this summer. And also their manager is top draw, and that is Leeds. Back in the Premier League after 16 seasons. I wouldn't, as a United fan, obviously I wouldn't mind seeing them go right back down, but I think Bielsa is a mastermind. I really do. And I think that Leeds team just has some certain qualities about them that obviously they've just get from Bielsa. He just kind of drills in this culture there, and you can kind of see that coming together. And honestly, I thought about putting them higher because I think that they will do okay. But then I don't think they have enough to really push for the 10, close to those like Europa League spots, which is why I couldn't put them any higher than 14th. So, with that said, the next team is, I think, a team that also has a very good manager, and that's Southampton. Hasenhüttl has done a very good job. Obviously, it looked absolutely dire last year when they lost 9-0 to Leicester. You just thought, all right, this team, no way they're staying up. Hasenhüttl just kind of figured it out. Danny Ings is incredible. If they keep him healthy, he's going to get you goals. And I do like some of their other players that they have. I think, they brought in another center back to partner Vestergaard, who I think is kind of an underrated player. Kyle Walker-Peters, who was with them last year, young right back from Tottenham. He's doing well, I think. So I think he's solid. Obviously, Ryan Bertrand. You just kind of have good, solid Premier League, for the most part, either, Premier League players that are fairly proven. And I think it's kind of fair. Then when you add on top of that, you have Ings, who I think is above that quality. 13th place is a really good spot for them. And, we'll see. The next, Louis is not going to be happy. He's going to want them higher. But like I said, I'm probably going to be wrong. So who knows? Maybe they do better. Newcastle. Callum Wilson, Ryan Fraser, they've actually made some moves. Obviously, the fan base hates their owner, which I can totally understand. He looks, from the outside looking in, it's not pretty, and I definitely understand having owners that, you can do better. But they've made some good signings. They still have some decent young talent. I have question marks about their midfield. I just think there's some inconsistencies there. When you look at the talent of someone like John Joe Shelby or whatever, super talented guy. He's just never put it all together. But obviously there's other pieces in there. Almiron, another season in. I think that they're just going to be squarely a Premier League team. They're going to be better than they were last year. And obviously all Newcastle fans are hoping that an improved season will bring about an improved bid by somebody to buy their club, because that's, I think, literally the only thing that anyone's hoping for. So we shall see. 12th, that was Newcastle. 11th, the best voice of any manager in the Premier League, Sean Dyche with Burnley. Burnley just have an identity. They stick to it. It doesn't really matter who's on that squad, but they have guys that I don't know that I would like anywhere else. Chris Wood, and then I'm blanking now. That's how forgettable it is. But Jay Rodriguez is another one who, has come through injuries, but he just, and especially against United, of course, just scores these wonder goals. But he also is he's just a good player. He's always been just a solid player. Have some young talent coming through. I think that they're just going to do well. 11th place, not quite into the European spots, but there's a lot of competition this year. I think a lot of teams have improved, or at least new managers have had more time, those type of things. So Burnley squarely in that 11th spot. I think they're probably pretty comfortable in that spot. The next team, I think it's just impressive what they've done. I think they've brought in more signings. I do think they will drop. I guess it's not really much of a drop-off, but a slight drop-off, losing their starting goalkeeper, and that's Sheffield United. Chris Wilder is a phenomenal manager. And, Sheffield are they're slightly similar to, not in the way they play, but they're similar in just they have an identity. It does not matter who you bring in, but they're like Burnley in that way. I just think that Sheffield is a little bit more dynamic than Burnley, which is why they'll get a few more wins where Burnley may get they I think they'll draw more games than Sheffield will, and that's kind of why those points disparity will favor Sheffield, who are a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more adventurous. Yeah, so a 10th place, solid finish, second year in back in the Premier League. This one's going to be a little contentious. I know that for a fact. There's going to be some people that don't agree with me, and I understand because it's a tough one. I like their team a lot, but I look at it this way: it's another year in Europa League. I don't think it's an overly deep roster, and that's Wolves. I think that they've brought some, of course, more Portuguese players in. They will do well. I think that they might actually do better in Europa League this year, but I think we can't underestimate how tough it is playing in Europa League. And you saw it. They did struggle at periods this year. So if they really put their full force into Europa League, I think that they will drop a bit in the league. Now, Nuno is a great manager. They have a great blend of young and more experienced players. That midfield is honestly, it's not the ninth best midfield in the league. I would say it's much higher than that. I mean, Moutinho, Neves, the Donker. And then they have more people that they throw in there as well. It's an exciting midfield. Obviously, Jimenez is a great guy to lead your line. And maybe you want. I mean, with what he did, especially in Europa League, I mean, he did well in the Premier League. I still think that the other attackers need to do more. And I don't know that you're going to get more out of them. Maybe Jota. Jota has a little bit more in his locker. I could see that. Traore is exciting because he's, this specimen, really. You don't see anybody like him. But overall, I don't see enough production out of a guy like that. He's probably best for them off the bench because he provides something different. In my opinion, I just think he's a few shades darker and a lot more fit than Dan James. That's what he is. He's a he's a yoked black Dan James. That's really what he is. That's probably the most contentious thing I said. But Wolves, 9th place. I still think it's a good spot for them. All right. Moving on. 8th. So one spot out of the European spots. And that would be another year out of Europe for Jose Mourinho and Tottenham. I just don't think they've done enough. I do think that having another year with Jose will solidify things for them. But I look at the teams around them who have either had more success recently and look like they're progressing more, or they've just added to their teams. And, Jose's pedigree says that I should give him more faith, but he just has not proven lately that he's still that same manager, that he's the special one still, And obviously Harry Kane's is gonna bag goals when he's healthy, which has been more of an issue lately than I think we realize sometimes. He has not been super healthy lately. You've lost pieces. You have to replace Vertonghen. Of course, you have other center backs. Sanchez is a guy that they look at who's an athletic guy, but I just feel like he does tend to have at least one kind of costly mistake in him. I think they did a very good job of replacing Aurier. Not replacing because he's still there as of right now, even though there are many links to Italy and stuff like that. I think Doherty is a better player. Aurier could do some things offensively, but often caught ball watching, often caught just out of position, either too high, whatever it was. And I think Doherty is just a little bit better. Obviously, you got to see what he's going to be because he was a wing back in that Wolves system. But I foresee that he will be a better option than Aurier. And then it's about whether Jose can kind of get some of the other players who have underperformed, like Dele Alli, to like get back to what he needs to do. One guy I didn't mention, who I think is their actual best player. I think Kane's a top player, but I think Son is. I think he's. I think he's just like a one notch above what he can do. I think sometimes he's slightly underutilized by them, and you kind of saw it when Kane went down. It was kind of on his back, and then obviously when he was gone for that little period, they missed him a lot, and they have enough to be right there. Like I said, I just don't think that I don't love that team enough. I mean, some of the signings they've had. I mean, Højbjerg, yeah, I think he'll add maybe some like stability and continuity and leadership in that midfield, which maybe they need. And honestly, maybe that just means Eric Dyer doesn't play, or he plays center back, which would be a much better option. If that's the case, then maybe they could do it. I could see that working out for them a little bit better. I still see so many holes in that team, and I didn't see on the field enough progression to warrant them going any higher than where they're at. Now, 7th place in a European spot. That is Everton. Carlo, full year. That alone should improve them. Carlo is top notch. Much in the way that Jose is, except for I think Carlo. To be fair, Carlo didn't have much success at Napoli. So, I mean, he's fallen off. I think it's, but I still think that, he's fallen off a little less because you could see the improvement in Everton more than I thought you could see it in Tottenham. That was, at least in my opinion. Now, the biggest reasons, of course, are the signings. Decore, Allen, phenomenal signings in themselves. And then they go out and they bring in the big boy in James Rodriguez. I get it. He's been sitting on the bench, but he even on the bench at Bayern, he did well. Real, it's been it's been difficult for him to get game time, but he's going to get game time. And for the most part, anytime that this guy has had game time, he's done extremely well. Now, do I think that that Everton are getting the James of 2014 World Cup? No, I don't. But I do think that he comes in and he is definitely one of the better attacking mids. And obviously he's a big upgrade even on someone. I mean, he's a massive upgrade on someone like Tom Davies or whatever, but I think he's a pretty big upgrade on Sigurdsson, who I don't think is a terrible player. I just don't think that you're going to win a whole lot with someone like Sigurdsson as like your main focal point of your midfield, like James will be. I like Richarlison. I don't love Calvert-Lewin, but I can see how those kind of like, they're almost like they work together. Calvert-Lewin's going to work really hard. I mean, he scored a good amount of goals, so I can't even say that he just works hard. Like, he scored goals. It's more of the, like, a little more old school number 9, does dirty work. Richarlison, has a little bit more flair to him, and I could see that working. And then you have other players in there who I think just kind of add to the team as a whole. So, 7th place, Carlo gets back into Europe with Everton, and yeah, I think that's pretty solid. I think that they will have a big fight with Wolves and Spurs, but I think ultimately they're able to pull it out. The next team that I think have made some good moves. I think they've made long-term moves for sure that I like. And then there was definitely vast improvement. And they've already technically won a trophy this year. It's not a trophy, even no matter how much Jose Mourinho thinks that the Community Shield is a trophy. But Arsenal under Arteta have looked a much improved side. They look like they have a clear vision, a clear plan. And that's really what we've wanted from them. You have an absolute world beater in Aubameyang. You have Lacazette, who I think is a good player. and can do a good job. You have Pepe there. You have some young players. Saka, who's an assist machine. Martinelli, when he comes back, is a good option off. Probably off the bench. Maybe he fights one of those other two for either a spot through the middle or off the wing. They have a lot of young talent coming through. Eddie Nikita, and then in the midfield, I think that I still think there's room to improve. Signing, I guess, getting Caballas back was a massive, massive move for them. They couldn't lose. They needed someone like him. I don't love Xhaka, but I think Xhaka's a solid player. And then they're kind of weird because they have a few different options in there. I did like Torreira. He hasn't done well. I've never loved Guendouzi. I don't think he's a great option. They have Joe Willock in there that they've used a good amount. And we like to forget, but they do also have Mesut Ozil. Just some guy. Basically that's what he is. It's just some guy ever since Unai Emery destroyed him. For whatever reason. I think they just have enough. You listen to that. Their back line, Tierney, I like. Bellerin, attacking wise, there's a little less to be desirable, but I think he's solid defensively. It's just whether or not he'll stay healthy for a full season. They brought in Gabriel. They had already brought in Saliba. They bought him last year, but he's coming in. Still very young. Obviously, they have David Luiz. He's starting the year hurt. All the talk about how, he makes all these errors. At the back end of the season, he was phenomenal for them, though. So that's tough. And then Leno at the back. Or Martinez. I think it'll be Leno. I think he's better, but Martinez did a good job. They got enough. I still think that they have holes. I think their attackers beyond Aubameyang need to contribute more. I think they can, but it's whether or not they actually will. And honestly, until I see it, I just don't have enough faith to put Arsenal any higher. The next team, finishing in the same spot they finished last year somehow, in 5th place, I have Leicester City. No real moves, except for the fact that they lost Chilwell. But they had lost Chilwell kind of at the end of the year when he was hurt, and they were playing Justin James, I believe, at left back, who did a good job. They will get Ricardo Pereira back. James Maddison looks like he's staying, which is a massive thing for them. Ndidi, Tielemans, that's a phenomenal midfield. Jamie Vardy still bagging goals no matter what. I think they need to add more to the attack. They've never, obviously, it's not like they can easily do this, but they've never replaced Mahrez. And I think they desperately need to. I think Harvey Barnes did a good job, still fairly young, but I don't think they need a little bit more. The biggest reason why I'm going to put them 5th is, I think it's Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers, with that squad, having another year with them, I think that they will hold their spot, potentially do well in Europe. And then, the one piece that I didn't mention is the center backs. I think Sionchu is a very good center back, and I think Johnny Evans is criminally underrated. And I think that they did a very good job last year. The one thing that worries me about them is you saw it again, and Brendan Rodgers has a bit of a history, especially in the Premier League, of right there, he's grabbing, and then just bottles it. You saw it with Liverpool. You've seen it with Leicester now. So they could be a team that slips. I could see it, but I think he is good enough. They are good enough to keep their spot at number 5, but not quite good enough to break into that top 4. Now, we got the top 4. I would love for them to be higher. But there's no way United can be higher than 4th right now when I look at what the other teams have done or what they are already. United has brought in Van de Beek. We've made a ton of youth signings that are good. Other than that, we've not really added much to our actual roster. Now, with that said, we should have Pogba and Bruno Fernandes for a full year. That will add to our team. I think we will be better this year. We will obviously have, like I said, Donny Van de Beek. We will hopefully, and can't bank on this, but hopefully we have less injuries to players like Rashford and Martial, and that would give us a little bit more consistency, which then you'll see our points total rise. Now, for me to feel more comfortable about our spot, I do think we need more additions in. Obviously, Jadon Sancho's been a link. We've been linked to everybody and their fucking mother, just like it is every year. I think somebody, I do think another center back would be an ideal thing. Obviously, I did already talk about what signings we should make, minus Jadon Sancho. You can listen to that one. Manchester United's perfect transfer window. You can check that out. Cheap plug. United looked better. They started to look. We had great form at various times. After the break, right before the break, we were really coming into our own. We looked like a good team. We started to tire late, though. Obviously, people question Ole. I think Ole has done enough to prove that he belongs here. I'm not saying that he's perfect. I'm not saying that he doesn't need to change some things, but I think he's a good manager. I think he's got a good team around him as far as other coaches. And I think our team is good enough. When you look from the back, you have 2 top goalkeepers. If you watch our goalkeeper top 10, we have 2 guys in the top 5 voted by us. for whatever that means to you. But Dean Henderson, David De Gea, whoever wins that job, whatever, you have a top goalkeeper. Right back, phenomenal defensive right back. Center backs, Harry Maguire. Hopefully he's able to keep his head on with everything else he's got going on. Lindelof is a very good, very solid center back. Bailly's a very talented guy. Axel, if he's healthy, is a super talented young center back. It's just whether or not those 2 can stay healthy. And then left back, you have Luke Shaw, who looked a lot better last year. Obviously, Brandon Williams played a bit, but I think Luke Shaw did eventually take that spot back over. Did well. Could definitely be a guy we replace. I think there are better ones out there, but defensively he's very sound. And obviously, attacking-wise, it's not the best, but we'll see. I think the back is sturdy. The midfield is obviously the best it's been in a long time. Pogba, Bruno, like I said, Van de Beek. I think Matic might be the starter a lot of times with those 2, but I think there'll be a lot of rotation, which is great, which is what we need. We need depth, and we need to be able to rotate, because then you talk about the likes of Fred, McTominay. I do believe Lingard and Pereira will not feature. I think they are on their way out. But then you still have Mata in there as well. The attack, and the part you got to talk about the most, right, is the front 3. Rashford, Martial, and Greenwood, those 3 combined for a lot of goals. They did a phenomenal job. And both of those, Rashford and Martial, both had stints where they were injured. And Greenwood had a big portion of the season where he was coming off the bench. So maybe some more consistency of those 3 playing together will up those goal tallies even more. I think we need. I don't know that we need a Jadon Sancho. Of course, would love Jadon Sancho. I do think we need a little bit more depth. Maybe like one more attacker. I'm going to say forward. I don't necessarily think it has to be a certain type of forward. I don't think it has to be a right wing. But somebody else that we can bring off the bench to trust to add and not just kind of be there. With that said, 4th place. I hope we make some signings. I hope that my opinion changes on this. But right now, this next team has just won the transfer market, and that's Chelsea at 3. That hurts. But they bring in Timo Werner, who is a bona fide superstar. I think it's fair to call him world class. I mean, the season that he had last year, what he did the year before, he's just been unbelievable. He's a guy that coming into this league, you're like, he might win the Golden Boot. He's that type of goal scorer. I don't think he will. I'll give those predictions at a later date. But he's definitely a guy in contention. He will score goals. Hakim Ziyech, I think he is underrated. I don't think people have talked about this signing enough. I think what he can provide, whipping in crosses, coming in, collecting the ball, and playing as another attacking mid and finding passes and connecting the midfield and the forwards more. I think he's gonna be very good for them. Obviously, they still have Pulisic, still have Tammy Abraham, and honestly, they still have Hudson-Odoi, who's a young, talented player. And then, honestly, they have Olivier Giroud, who, I don't think he still is, overlooked, but, the guy, no matter what, is scoring goals. He does a good job for them. Yeah, and then, of course, they got Kai Havertz. You still have Mason Mount. Still have N'Golo Kante. You still have Kovacic. You brought in Ben Chilwell, who I think is a bad signing. I think too expensive, and I think he's slightly above average. I think for anything anyone says about Luke Shaw, I think that Ben Chilwell is Shaw level, maybe. I don't think he's good defensively. He's a little better attacking, maybe, but I think he's just kind of an average player. I think they could have done better by going overseas to finding another left back that way, especially for the money they paid. But it's arguable that he has improved them from that standpoint. But I would actually disagree because I think Osby playing there, even though he is a right back, is a better option still. But I digress. And then I think the one signing that has improved, that might improve them the most, is Thiago Silva, for probably a myriad of reasons, but the biggest being is that guy coming in with his pedigree, with his experience, and on top of that, his ability, because we saw how good he was still, because I thought he played phenomenal in the Champions League, even the final, obviously not a high-scoring game. I thought he did really well, played amazing in the semifinal, I thought. But to have this young team, and then you bring in a guy like Thiago Silva, who there's no way that all of these younger guys don't gravitate towards. There's no way he doesn't come into that locker room and just, one, demand respect, but also just garner it. And to have that kind of leadership and experience is going to go a long way for this young team. I think that was a phenomenal signing. Now, I don't think they're able to break in because I think they're going to give away goals, because anytime you shoot on Kepa, if he's starting, it's going to basically be in the back of the net. Also, I do worry that you're reshaping this entire lineup, essentially, and with that comes its own issues. You have different new players coming in from all over, having to learn the system, different things like that. Now, these are top professionals, top players. I imagine they'll get it, but I could definitely see there being a bit of a learning curve, a bit of a some stumbles along the way in that process. And honestly, it's going to be the first time that Frank has, this type of squad to be able to pick from, and that brings its own challenges. I imagine because of what he played in, that he has an idea of how to do that. Because I mean, this looks like a Chelsea team of old. But I do think that we have to understand that there will be some challenges, which is why they're third, and they're not in the top two yet. Though I do think they definitely won the transfer market thus far. The next team, and not returning as champions, I have Liverpool. Liverpool hasn't done a whole lot in the market. Of course, they're very good. I hate it. If this was my wish, they would be 20th. They would be relegated, but they're second. They're a phenomenal team. Their front line, minus Firmino, is very good. Firmino's solid, but that's somewhere it can improve. I think that they've missed the most in this transfer market. I mean, it sounded like no-brainer that Timo Werner was going there, which would have been phenomenal. But they didn't get him. I think that they need to make some more signings, I think, to just kind of keep that squad fresh. I think that's a big thing with any title, retaining any title. You got to keep the squad fresh, motivated, and all of these things. The easiest, I think, way to do that is to bring players in and create like healthy internal competition. Obviously, they've created a good culture that will keep them competitive, but it's you've seen it. It's extremely hard to retain the title. It's almost harder to retain the title than it is to win it in some aspects. Maybe not for Liverpool, who hadn't won in 30 years or ever, but it was. But I think that Klopp is phenomenal. What they're doing is unbelievable. I can't hate on really anything they've done. They've made phenomenal moves in the transfer market in previous years. Their academy is flourishing. They have some of the top young talent in that aspect as well. But if you look at if you watch those games last year, Liverpool did not look like they deserved to win a lot of those games. I don't want to just say it was luck. I think that they did. There was a bit of dominance about them, a bit of like aura about them, that kind of just was able to push them over. But that can only last so long. And I just think that as a whole, I think that this league, the point total is going to be lower. I think it's going to be high 80s. That's where you're going to see the winner. Maybe low 90s. I think it's going to be I think there's going to be more games dropped. I think it's going to be more competitive, especially near the top as well. I don't necessarily know that United and Chelsea are going to be that close, but I think that the gap between United and City might be where that third and first or fourth, I think that it'll be closer. I don't think it's going to be a 20-point gap. I think maybe a 10-point gap between first and third, but definitely not whatever it was, 100 like it was last year. Liverpool's a good side. They will definitely be a tight race between them. With that said, I think we know who I have picked. Begrudgingly so, but I think they're the best team. I think Nathan Ake is a good signing. I do wonder why he's the guy they bring in, unless they're going to play him at left back, or you're going to have two left-footed center backs, which is, I guess, to be fair, is possible. There's a lot of two right-footed center backs playing together, so why can't there be two left-footed center backs? That one's a little odd, but they needed players defensively, no doubt about it. They need to be able to move Fernandinho up. Laporte should be one of the best center backs in the league. but he needs to stay healthy. And if he doesn't stay healthy, you need to have options behind him, which they didn't have. Now they have more. And then obviously there's many reports that they might be still in the market for another center back, which would not surprise me, and that would be a good if they can shore up their defense, then it's scary because their attack is not fair. Sterling, Aguero, Mahrez, right? Jesus, and then Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, and they brought in Ferran Torres, young winger, Phil Foden. It's just a bunch. It's just kind of the rich get richer type thing. They just keep getting you think that it's done when you're reading the list, and then it's like, oh wait, this guy can also score 10 to 15 goals. Great, love it. But I will say this: I think they'll miss David Silva. I don't think Phil Foden will be able to fill those shoes right away if that's their plan. Bernardo Silva might be able to. I don't think he's not the same player as David. I mean, which that's kind of like of course not, because David Silva is, I think, one of the best players in the past 10 years. So that's hard. Aguero's got to stay fit, which has been a struggle the past couple of years. But overall, when you look statistics-wise, you look at a lot of things, you look at just the games, they still qualified as the best team, or should have been the best team last year. And I think it just came down to they just did not have the defense last year at all. And the other thing I do worry about is you're getting close to the end of where Pep usually is done with teams, even at Barcelona. So that would be the one thing that I would say maybe would push them back down and stumble as much as they did last year. But I think how much they stumbled last year, and of course they still finished second, but by their standards and like how far they were from Liverpool, I think that you're going to see a very motivated City side, which will be very dangerous for the rest of the league. So that is my predictions. We'll go over this one more time, just so everybody knows. My champions, upsettingly so, Manchester City, second place, Liverpool, Chelsea, United. In the Europa League spots, we have Leicester City, Arsenal, and Everton. And then just below that, we'll go through these quickly. Like I said, 8, 9, and 10 are those close spots. Spurs, Wolves, and Sheffield. Below that is kind of the fodder with Burnley, Newcastle, Southampton, New Boys, Leeds, Crystal Palace, West Ham, and newly promoted Fulham, just barely escaping relegation. And then our 3 relegated sides, Brighton, West Brom, Aston Villa. Whew. I'm going to be so wrong, and I'm going to get made fun of so much for this, but that's okay. Like I said, these are my unqualified opinions, and honestly, I have some facts, mostly feelings on these, but that's what's fun about it. Tell me what you guys think, and don't forget to check out all the videos and podcasts and everything else we got going on. I will talk to you guys very soon. We got videos coming out, more top 10 lists, more interviews coming up. Very excited, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks, guys. Peace.